Welcome back, everybody. Today we'll be discussing the Jordan 1 CO.JP Navy, also known as the Jordan 1 Japan Midnight Navy. Specifically, we'll be discussing whether you should sell or hold the Jordan 1 CO.JP and why. To preface this, if you guys enjoy these types of videos regarding market, reselling, and even info on how to acquire these limited products, be sure to subscribe and enable post notifications just so you're always 100% updated. Furthermore, for more urgent updates like shock drops and Sitelists, follow my Twitter KeithAdam10 and also personals for you. This way you're always 100% in the loop 24/7 whenever there is a restock or drop. For those who don't know, the Jordan 1 CO.JP Navy dropped on November 14th in the United States and October 31st in Europe for $170 in men and $130 in grade school sizes. In order to determine if the Jordan 1 CO.JP will be a fruitful hold, we will cover whether they're expected to increase or hypothetically decrease, along with how much specifically over specific periods of time, and finally, what type of margin we're looking at in terms of holding, not the retail to resell initial margin, but rather just a hold margin over X period of time. At this current time, November 17th, 2020, we have a very unique situation for these. Normally, we would expect a massive drop in value as online shipment pairs began to cause an influx in pairs in circulation. You should still expect to see this over the next week, but on a significantly smaller scale in comparison to normally. This is because there is already a mass amount of pairs in circulation due to the early Europe drop on October 31st. Hence, you won't see as much of a rapid or significant decrease in comparison to what we normally may potentially see. Just to fully clarify, I do expect that drop in value, but nowhere near as it usually tends to be. Also keep in mind that stock on the Jordan 1 CO.JP was relatively low for a Jordan 1 high, at least compared to the Jordan 1 Mocha, for example, at 280,000 pairs worldwide, compared to the Navy CO.JP at only 90,000 pairs. That all should illustrate to you guys how important demand in comparison to stock is. Certainly outweighs it in terms of a contributing factor more often than not. Currently, as of me making this video 2 days after the drop, the grade school pairs are hovering around $215 to $230 on average, while the men's pairs on average are just sitting around $255 to $265 on average. Normally, I would expect around a 10% decrease, but due to what I did mention earlier, I'm only expecting around a 5% drop in value on average over the next 2 weeks. This means that grade school pairs should eventually settle around $210 to $215, and men's pairs should settle around $245 to $250 once the majority of US online pairs are in circulation. Now, with the average price ranges, with that stated, let's discuss whether they're expected to increase or even hypothetically decrease, along with how much specifically over periods of time. Traditionally, Jordan 1s in men and grade school with high demand almost always tend to increase in value. The one exception is when a sneaker is overvalued, creating a bubble. This was evident with the satin Jordan 1. Many people were overvaluing it due to the prior satin releases, hence they didn't have much room to keep increasing when at that high premium price. So then once prices did plateau, they began to fall significantly. We saw a similar situation to this on the Jordan 1 CO.JP in silver, matter of fact, but on a significantly smaller scale, of course. Due to the fact that they were known to be very limited, these were initially slightly overvalued in the current point in time. Again, as I illustrated before, demand plays a significantly more important factor than stock. Perhaps we can even derive some sort of ratio regarding stock to demand importance in certain products one day. We'll discuss that in another video perhaps. But anyway, I do not expect this to be the case with these, on the other hand. In fact, quite the contrary. People already saw what occurred with the silver pair. Those who had doubts of holding pairs have already sold due to this, or will within the next 1 to 2 weeks when there is that price drop. It's not hard to find the depreciating value of the silver pair on StockX, and it's quite rational for one to assume that these would have somewhat of a correlation because they're both similar sneakers in terms of being the Japan Jordan 1 retroing from 2001. Therefore, it's a lot more difficult for these to be overvalued in comparison to the silver pair, since we just saw it occur. Although my personal notion should be considered irrelevant, it can be stated that a navy and white Jordan 1 compared to a shiny silver on white Jordan 1 is significantly more universal. That's not to say the silver pair won't increase, because matter of fact, I do believe eventually they will long term, similar to the navy pair. The primary difference though is that I don't believe we will see the navy pair decay as much initially, because it's in a much harder position now where it's much harder for it to be overvalued. Additionally, the resale market isn't that high for these, similar to the silver pair, leaving more than sufficient room for these to increase over time, rather than those satin Jordan 1s, for example, which were $600 to $700 initially. Hence, you should expect these to increase overall. Specifically, I'm not expecting a rapid increase though, similar to the Mocha Jordan 1s, which we discussed not too long ago. In fact, for the first several months, we should see a plateau for a little while. Essentially, no significant changes at all. However, I do estimate that within 6 to 8 months, we will begin to see gradual increases of about 5% per month from there, and since they'll be increasing by the percentage, this amount won't be linear, which is a good thing of course. I would compare this situation to the Rookie of the Year Jordan 1. Initially, the demand for those was not extremely significant, but stock was only around 120,000 pairs on those, and although it was not the most desired colorway, still relatively universal, and they also had somewhat of a story behind them, similar to the Jordan 1 Japan. Therefore, initially you won't see a significant change of these at all. It can take up to a year potentially until we start seeing really notable results, but then that rate of growth will increase too, which makes it even better. Finally, regarding the hold margin on these, essentially the price you could have gotten versus the hold price in say 12 to 14 months from now, it's not too bad at all. Compared to something like the Off-White Jordan 5, for example, it should be significantly better, considering those didn't move much proportionally at all, just to provide an example. And just for reference, I'm referring to the black pair, considering we haven't had a chance to fully see how the white pair is going to play out yet. I do not expect the margin on these to be as good as the type of margin you'll see on sneakers that I mentioned in this video though. That's not because they won't increase a lot, because I do believe this pair eventually will, but rather it's because you can't get as much for those pairs right now. Meanwhile, you'll be able to get a pretty large amount for grade school or men's pairs of the CO.JP right now if you don't wait. In conclusion, no, it's not the best margin, but it's certainly not bad, and it is one of the better long-term holds. If you had to choose a very hyped sneaker, of course. But again, I would highly suggest checking out the other video for the most productive holds statistically. Specifically, some great ones that recently popped up this month would be the Day of the Dead Jordan 1 mid grade school and men pairs, and the same goes for the Band Jordan 1 mids in grade school and men's sizes. You should expect the Band ones to drop potentially a few more dollars, but eventually they will increase by a significant amount. Personally, I'll be holding a fair amount of them. I know that there are better margins on some other products, but I do have sufficient room to hold a solid amount of these too, and I don't really need the capital right now, so I'm just going to put them in my basement and forget about them for 12 to 16 months. Then from there, I'll see what the rate of increase is at, and if they begin to hypothetically plateau, then I'll let them go, and if they're still increasing, well, then I'll keep holding, of course. Now, whether you should hold or sell at X period of time, it's highly dependent on your capital, of course. First, you should never hold anything if you don't have sufficient capital to go for as many drops as possible at your full potential and full capacity, and without holding back, of course. If you have plenty of capital to sit on these shoes and hold for extended periods of time, on the other hand, like a long-term investment, then I'd suggest holding these. Don't fear the temporary dip, because that likely will occur within the next 1 to 2 weeks, and don't fear the plateau, because that will likely occur as well. They will eventually surpass that dip. It will take some time though. Patience and confidence is absolutely key. But anyway, I will conclude it there. Feel free to leave a like if you did enjoy, or you perhaps learned a thing or two. Also, subscribe and enable post notifications just to stay 100% updated on all hyped sneakers. And remember, if you guys do need reliable, fast residential proxies or Nike sneakers and Adidas pre-verified accounts, feel free to check the links in the description for TARS and KIP proxies. And of course, follow my Twitter, KeithAdam10, and personals for you, just so you're always 100% updated when it comes to anything such as shock drops, restocks, Sitelists, raffle lists, etc. With that, I'll see you guys later. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Why are you always in my way? Me over every single day. Get your foot off my foot.